Hey everybody, I wanted to take a few minutes to show you 4 cool ways to improve your straight punches. A lot of people have trouble with their punches whenever they first start because they tend to lift their elbow because they're trying to get more power or more torque into their punches, and they end up either getting a boxer's fracture because they're hitting with that outside pinky and hurting themselves, or they just miss a lot. They don't have good control and good speed. It's too easy to block the punches. So what we need to do is we need to learn how to punch straight forward without lifting our elbow out to the side. Particularly with something like a jab, a lot of students, particularly children, have trouble because they want to lift this and throw power and lift and throw that shoulder into the punch. The reality is you don't need that. If you've got great structure, you can punch straight forward while keeping that elbow low. So I've got a couple of tips for you on how to do that. These are kind of some fun ways to do that. The first way is very, very simple. Find a wall. I actually stole this from a juggling instructor that I worked under one time. I was very young and I learned how to juggle. I'm terrible at it, by the way. But he did show me something really cool, is that when you learn how to juggle, you do it against a wall so that you don't throw the balls outward in front of you, because if you do, they bounce off the wall and hit you in the face. So don't do that. So instead, you get up next to a wall. You can do the same thing with your punches, but you do it from the side. So if I want to work on my straight punches, say with my jab here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up here against a wall. I'm literally going to put my shoulder against the wall, okay, and lean on it a little bit so that when I punch, I can't lift my elbow, because if I do, it pushes me away from the wall. So instead, I want to go from here straight out. Now, if I actually go straight out, what happens is that I'm turning my shoulder in and my punch is now aligned with my shoulder. This is not really where I want my punch to be. I really want my punch to be in front of me, okay, on center line here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to push this out, boom, and on center line. So from here, I'm just getting lined up with that wall and then pop, extending out. If I start to lift my elbow, boom, I'm going to feel it throw me off the wall, okay? If you have a rough surface wall, be careful about how fast you do that. You'll get a bunch of scarring on your elbow there, so maybe find something with a smooth surface or wear a long sleeve or something so that doesn't happen. The next way to practice is really cool if you maybe don't have a wall you want to work on, but you've got a broom handle. And now what I have here is not a broom handle, but this little thing right here is called an Eskrima. It's a great way to do this. A broom handle works just as well. I could do this with my bow. I just don't like to carry it around because it's bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stick and I'm going to put it in between those 2 knuckles right there. I'm going to wrap this over, okay? Just like I'm doing a punch. Now you can't do a really great fist position there because you got a big old stick in your hand, but you're going to wrap over just like that, okay? Now you're going to take this and you're going to set it on your shoulder. You're going to pull back as close to a guard position as you can. Now you're going to notice the wrist position is wrong here, but that's okay because we're not worried about wrist position at this particular juncture. What we're working on is keeping our elbow from lifting out to the side. So then what you're going to do is you're going to practice, and I'm doing this off my rear hand, you're going to practice trying to draw that straight forward and rotate your hand over the top of the stick. So here I am, I'm going to push up and rotate at the very last of the punch, at the very end of the punch. What you're going to notice is that if you lift your elbow, this stick comes out from your jaw, and then as you punch, boom, you come back and you kind of hit yourself in the jaw. So if you do this quick, it goes pop, and you're like, oh, well, that didn't feel great at all, okay? So instead, try to slide it straight. Feel that stick slide straight along your shoulder. Even if you add the hip twist, if you're sliding straight, it's not going to pop you too badly in the hip as long as you're pulling straight along. This is also really going to help your rotation at the end of the punches because you have to rotate to get your hand on top of that stick. Okay, so there's another great way that you can practice. Now, a simpler way to do that if you don't have a stick laying around is to take your hand and think about carrying a plate of food and dumping it out. Okay, so if I have my hand sideways, a lot of times what we see is people that punch, they throw their hand out like this and they end up doing kind of a hammer fist, all right? Just like if I was doing this on the wall and I threw my elbow out, then as I extend, it folds out toward the wall. And I don't want that to happen because, again, it opens me up to that boxer's fracture and I might miss the target because instead of going forward, I'm going outward. One way to do this is to just simply think about having maybe a pancake or something on your hand and you want to flip the pancake, all right? So I'm going to hold my hand in a really weird position. Again, this is not what you want to do in actual sparring, but I'm going to hold it in a really weird position, and then I'm going to extend, like I'm holding that out, and then boop, dumping it out, okay? Out, boom. Just make sure that as you're doing that, you don't end up with this really weird wrist position that stays as you punch. You want to make sure that this is nice and flat after you rotate over, okay? So hold the pancake, flip the pancake. Hold the pancake, flip the pancake. And there you go, okay? That's method number 3. Now, this last one is one of my absolute favorites. I used to do this all the time, and I didn't realize how good it was for me because I wasn't practicing for martial arts at the time. I was just trying to look cool. I was, I don't know, maybe 16 when I learned how to do this. I'm sure some of you probably learned how to do this a lot earlier, okay? But this is a really fun little technique. It's a fun little game you can play with yourself. So you take a tennis ball, or this is a racquetball, something like that, something that's got a little spring to it. And what you do is you hold it right here over your own bicep, you drop it, and then as it falls, you pop your elbow up so that you hit on the bicep or right in here in the crook of the elbow here, and it pops the ball back up, and then you catch it. So it looks something like this. Okay? Now you notice in order for me to do that, my elbow has to go up, not out. If I turn my elbow out to the side, I miss, okay? So you don't want to do that. Instead, you want that elbow to go straight up, and that'll help you to catch that ball. It takes a little bit of practice to get to this. It's another one of those good opportunities to use a wall. Okay, get in front of a wall to do this. Just be far enough away from the wall that you're not going to crash your knuckles into it, all right? But this is just a fun little thing. You can just walk around with one of these when you're at home or out in the yard or whatever, and you can just practice popping it. Boom, bringing that elbow up. And what you'll find is that as you do that, you're going to learn how to keep those elbows close to your body and extend straight up, and then all you have to do in the end is rotate that wrist over. All right, guys, so there's 4 great ways that you can work on those straight punches, keeping that elbow down and guarding that body with your elbows. Hope that was helpful. Hopefully it was fun. Keep training, keep growing. We'll see you in the next one.